Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, a big thank you for CTBUH for recognizing myself and my work of many of my colleagues. And they told me that this is the first time that they recognize an urban planner. So you can guess the talk that I'm going to give. I'm an architect planner, and basically I set the stage for many of the beautiful buildings that you do. So I'd like to share a little bit of the work of what I do in Singapore. Well, we're called the little red dot in Southeast Asia because we are very land and resource constrained. We are only half the size. Singapore is half the size of metropolitan London, but we have to house 5.6 million people. So you can imagine that that presents a huge challenge. Just 50, 60 years ago, this was Singapore. Hard to believe, right, for those who have visited us. And we face a lot of challenges. We're land and resource constrained, but we are not just a city, we're a country, which means that we have to cater for everything that a country needs. But how do we then deal with these challenges? So today I'd like to talk about some of the strategies that we use to make Singapore a livable place. I think the first strategy that is very important to us is to adopt holistic, long-term strategic planning. We are a strong believer of planning because we don't have a lot of land and we have to be very careful with our resource. So we do a very long-term plan where we look into the development of Singapore in a horizon of 30 to 40 years, and we do this every 5 to 10 years, and then we cascade the plans into detailed plans that has a 15-year horizon. Why is this important? Because it really helps us to prioritize infrastructure investments for economic and social development. It ensures we have enough land, and it ensures that we know where to put our resources for the infrastructure that is needed for development. Second, we harness innovation and technology to optimize our resources. And we use technology to create land. We now reclaim land into the deepest parts of the sea. And we also look into underground rock caverns to create land for storage, for example. A very good example of harnessing innovation and technology is to achieve self-sufficiency in water. You can appreciate we're very small. But we have 4 national taps for water. The first tap is local catchment water. We pray very hard so that it will rain. And then we make sure that we collect almost every drop that falls from the sky. We have to import some water from our neighbors, Malaysia. And you can appreciate that as 2 sovereign nations, eventually we cannot keep importing water from Malaysia because they will also need water. So we want to become fully self-sufficient in time to come. So we developed a third tap called New Water, which is really recycled water using membrane technology. And of course, the 4th tap is desalinated water. So what we do today is we collect almost everything that falls from the sky. And we aim to increase our water catchment to 90% of the land area. Almost everything is captured. And we use technology to recycle water. So we built this thing called a deep tunnel sewage system, which is a deep tunnel about 10 to 30 stories below the ground. By gravity fall, we collect everything. It goes to a water reclamation plant, and through membrane technology, we are able to recycle almost everything, reuse water. So this has been important because it also freed up 1,000 hectares of land by removing all pumping stations in Singapore. So we saved a lot of land as well. Now, this means that Singapore has managed to close the water loop. We have the circular economy. Here you have the circular water loop because we recycle and we reuse everything. Next strategy is we plan for a very compact and transit-oriented development. No choice. We are very dense. And we decentralize a lot of our commercial nodes, very well served by public transport, so that we do not congest the city area. Now, this means that we have to put in a lot of rail lines, and we're putting in a lot of investments, about $150 billion to double the rail network from about 178 kilometers to 360 kilometers by 2030. The rail network will then be almost as dense as maybe London and New York's rail network, and we want to discourage the use of car. So since the 1970s, we have already introduced congestion pricing. But now we're looking into the next generation electronic road pricing system using GPS satellite technology. And we're currently also test bidding autonomous mobility on demand and also electric vehicle car sharing. In fact, we're testing autonomous buses in Singapore. That's what we're going to look at. The fourth strategy is to aim for a very sustainable and livable environment. In a very dense place, this is absolutely necessary. We have a sustainable Singapore blueprint, which guides a lot of the things that we do, and these are some of the aspirations that we want to achieve. Having eco-smart, enduring towns, a car-like Singapore, towards a zero-waste nation, a leading green economy, and an active and gracious community. So integrating green and blue elements into the environment is very important for us. We have something like 360 parks in this very small place, and it keeps increasing. And we link them up with these things called park connectors, because we create the illusion of space when you link up a lot of greenery. They don't become small parks, become huge parks when you link them up. And we are starting to convert a lot of these traditional concrete canals into naturalized waterways and greenery. And we are bringing a lot of the landscaping up into the sky. We have this program called the Landscaping for Urban Spaces and High-Rises. I introduced this program when I was the CEO of the Urban Redevelopment Authority. We give a lot of incentives for sky gardens. And we also have this interesting idea on 100% replacement greenery. Everything you take from the land, you put it back onto the sky. And we've introduced a lot of biodiversity. In fact, Singapore, being a very urban city, has actually developed an urban biodiversity index, which has been adopted by the United Nations. So my National Parks Board colleagues do a very good job in retaining whatever we have. If you have not visited Singapore, I welcome you to visit us. We actually have a primary forest right in the middle of Singapore, and it has a lot of biodiversity species there. And of course, we want to develop a culture of excellent design and architecture, and it sets the stage for all the wonderful buildings that are built by architects and developers. Now, how do we apply all these ideas? So I'm just going to cite two examples. One is Marina Bay, is the new city extension that I worked on. Through long-term planning, we already reclaimed land in anticipation of the growth of the city, and we reclaimed this land since the 1970s. But in the year 2000s, we decided it's time to move into the city. So we seamlessly grow the city into the reclaimed land area, and we wanted the city to be vibrant, to be a 24/7 live, work, play destination. And we developed a lot of very detailed plans, detailed urban design plans, and we wanted the plans to be very visionary. So we had a necklace of public attractions around the bay, built with iconic designs and interesting uses like theaters and art science museums. And we invested in future-ready urban infrastructure to develop excellent connectivity. So when you're in the city, you can move around by rail, bus, road, and sea systems. That's where we have the International Cruise Terminal. We want a car-lite approach. It's very well served by rail lines. And we are bringing in all the cycling paths. And you're no more than 10 minutes walk from a mass rapid transit station. Now, what we did was we brought in district cooling. And Singapore now has, I believe, the largest district cooling systems in the world for its city center. And I brought in the idea of the Common Services Tunnel. Not such a new idea. You see them in some of the bigger cities. But it has been an excellent investment because we put in a tunnel which is larger than the Mass Rapid Transit Tunnel, and we put all the utilities there. Cities take 10, 20, 30 years to grow. So now we can build the city progressively by improving and increasing utilities without digging up any roads. So it was a very good investment for us. I talked about integrating blue elements and the idea of collecting every drop of water. So what we did was we put a marina barrage at the Marina Channel, and we converted all the inland water bodies into a freshwater reservoir, bringing in the blue elements. It's beautiful because we now has a stable water level, which creates a lot of great recreation facilities. It makes the city look a lot more beautiful. And we again also integrate green elements. So we have distinctive districts with distinctive planting through different landscaping for the different districts. And I talked about the 100% greenery replacement policy. Everything that we remove from the ground, we're bringing up towards the sky in sky-rise gardens. So we incentivize a lot of the greenery. Dual resident project, in fact, the one that you see here, this is an artist's impression. I think it's just topped out. It should be completing sometime this year, if not next year. Another thing we did was we took a very difficult decision by putting 3 world-class gardens of 100 hectares linked by pedestrian bridges right in the heart of the city extension. There was a lot of persuasion by the planners, and fortunately, the political leaders accepted that we have to have this prime land for parks because it served as a green lung for the city. And so we developed Gardens by the Bay. And it's a beautiful garden. It has 2 cool domes. We don't need a greenhouse because Singapore is a natural greenhouse. So we need cool houses. And in each of these domes, it's very different. We have the flower dome, which features changing flower themes and Mediterranean plants. And we have the cloud forest, which features plants from the tropical highlands with a mini waterfall. So if you do come, do visit. It has something like 250,000 species of plants in this garden alone. So we have very good gardeners in Singapore. And the Gardens by the Bay won the 2010 World Architecture Festival Award when it first opened. Now you see some of these tall trees, we call them super trees. They're not decorative, they're actually chimneys, and there's on top of one of them there's a restaurant. Because underneath the garden is a waste to energy generation plant. There are 3 million trees in Singapore. We collect all the plant twigs and leaves and we burn them underneath the garden in this plant to generate energy to help to cool the domes so that we reduce energy use. And of course, design excellence. We believe in great urban design and to shape the city with urban design guidelines, and we guide the way in which all your beautiful buildings are placed in the city. We looked at how to sculpt the skyline to give it a signature image. We emphasized the crown and roof forms. We looked at public spaces, walkability and greenery, and we fully integrate all the developments with the mass rapid transit system underneath the city. And then you have beautiful projects. This was done by Moshe Safdie. We worked very closely on this project. If you work in Singapore, well, when I was doing this project, I meet with Moshe Safdie every 6 weeks, so that his building is fully integrated with the city infrastructure. And of course, night lighting, very important. We incentivize basic and festive lighting by giving developers floor space incentives. So the city lights up for festivals with festive lighting, and then there is a basic lighting, because we don't want to overlight the city. Many cities are actually a little bit overlighted. We want the lighting to be elegant and to be beautiful. But cities is not just about making a place. It's about not just a space, but it's about making places. And so we want the entire Marina Bay to be vibrant and active. So it is a sports venue. We bring in a lot of regattas and extreme sailing series. And we brought in the first Formula One night race in the world. I think it is still the first night race in the world. And we brought it right into the heart of the city. So the entire route for the Formula One race is lighted up. This is a fantastic view. When the race first started, I was not looking at the Formula One cars. Anyway, they zip by in half a second and you see nothing. But I was looking at the view from the top when the helicopter was flying over the city, and this was very exciting, particularly for the planners. And we brought in a lot of activities. We built a big float and we have national events. In fact, the Youth Olympics launch was on Marina Bay. We hosted the first Youth Olympics in the world. And we bring in a lot of activities into these spaces. We have a night lighting festival annually now, where we look at how to use energy creatively, all right, and visual arts installation, and it becomes a bay for celebration, for New Year's Eve, etc. So we've transformed from this in 50 years to this, a new city image for Singapore. I would like to just touch quickly on housing. Singapore is unusual because I come from the Housing Development Board. I'm now the CEO there. I house 82% of the population in 1 million flats in 26 towns. And 94% of the people actually own their own homes. It's not like council or social housing here. There's only 6% rental. And we want our housing to be well-designed and community-centric, sustainable, and smart. And this is a picture of a typical public housing town. And I just want to illustrate with one example of how we plan the town using some of these urban design and planning ideas. This is Punggol with about 100,000 units of, it's a new town along the waterfront. And we always plan our towns as a work, live, play, and learn environment comprehensively with all facilities within it. It is transit-oriented and car-lite, very well served by rail lines. You are no more than 300-meter walking radius from any station. We bring in an extensive cycling network, and we put in a pervasive greenery into the town, a mental greenery with parks of different sizes and of different hierarchies into the town. And for example, we bring in the water element. We dammed up 2 of the rivers, we converted them into freshwater reservoirs, and we decided that we needed to link them, but my engineers would say link it with a pipe to balance the water. I say, no, why don't we bring in a river? And we did that. And the river became a wonderful recreation facility for the town. And we look a lot into the design, both in terms of the external architecture, public spaces, and also the internal unit. This is what a typical housing, social housing in Singapore look like. And we have a sustainability framework which guides the development of the town. I'm not going to into detail because I know a lot of you know a lot about this, but we focus on environmental, social, and economic considerations in the design of the town. We have clear strategies, we have clear initiatives, we have clear KPIs which we target to hit in the way we design the town. And this fits in with the National Sustainability Blueprint Framework. So we contribute to sustainability in Singapore. And of course, to be sustainable, you have to harness technology. And we do a lot of research in energy, urban greenery, waste and water, in the living environment and building technology. I have no time to go into this, but for example, we are the largest procurer of solar in Singapore. And recently we have introduced a layer, an additional layer on top of sustainability, and it's called a smart town framework. Singapore is quite suitable to become a smart city, not just a smart city, but a smart nation, because we have brought broadband to almost every home, and we're bringing in fiber to every home, including every public housing flat in Singapore. We are wired up. We have phone penetration rates of almost 90%. So it's quite suitable to develop a lot of smart applications. I'm looking at smart in 4 areas: smart planning, smart environment, smart estate, and smart living, to make the town livable, efficient, sustainable, and safe. And so in smart planning, I have no time to talk about it here, but we do a lot of modeling of our towns using smart planning to create a very good environment. I have no time to talk about this here. If anybody is interested, I did a 15-minute TEDx talk on this. You can Google it on YouTube. It gives you some idea of what we're trying to do. It's very helpful for us because we can plan the entire town. We are looking at smart estates, how to better manage the operations of the towns. So we're building a new smart hub. Again, I have no time to go into it, but we will be building a smart hub, collecting a lot of data, doing data analytics to help us to run the towns much more efficiently. And finally, smart living, where we're looking at a lot of the applications that we're going to bring into the home, because all our flats will be smart enabled. ready to receive the smart applications that will be provided by a lot of commercial companies, for example. And we will be looking into elder care, safer homes, energy savings, and telehealth in the home. So these are some of the things we're looking at. So overall, after 50, 60 years, we are okay. I think we have improved quite a bit, and this is where we are. We continue to work hard to keep improving the small place that we have. And I want to conclude by saying that as an architect, it takes me 3 years to build a building. But as an urban planner, it takes me 30 years to shape a city. So we need a lot of patience and perseverance. Thank you.